Welcome back to Washington Watch. I'm your host, Tony Perkins. So glad that you're with us. The website, tonyperkins.com. All right, I think you've noticed this by now, but free speech is under attack. In fact, tomorrow, actually, I think it was actually one of these committees coming up on Committee on Energy and Commerce. A hearing on fanning the flames, disinformation, and extremism in the media. I think it's coming up. Yeah, it's coming up tomorrow, February the 24th. It's all designed to talk about, this is cable television. They want to knock off One American News, Newsmax, and even going after Fox, even though Fox has gone to the left. They still allow a conservative on every now and then, and so the left hates it. Members of Congress writing to AT&T, Verizon, others, wanting to basically deplatform any conservative news outlet. And of course, we've seen the censorship, the shadow bans, the deplatforming, the demonetizing, the warning labels. All of these terms and more are becoming way too familiar as it applies to conservatives who wish to engage freely on and in the public square, the virtual public square. Now, you see Facebook. I mean, they insist they are open platforms, but their actions suggest otherwise. Twitter knocking people off left and right that they disagree with. And I'm hearing this every day. I was actually in a meeting yesterday after I spoke in East Texas. I met with a group of pastors, and they were asking the question, where do we go? Where do we get information? How do we communicate? How can we be free and communicate truth and encourage one another with that truth? Well, there is now an alternative to Twitter, social media platform that my team has been vetting. I've been watching it. It's becoming a safe haven for free speech. Now, not everybody on there is a Christian, but Christians certainly can operate there and speak truth without fear of being silenced. And it's the idea that came about from a young Christian entrepreneur who himself, baptized by the fire of the intolerant left, created this platform, and it's taking off, and I'm encouraged by it. And he joins us now to talk about it, the CEO of Gab, Andrew Torba. Andrew, welcome to Washington Watch.
Thanks for having me, Tony. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for allowing me to share our story and our vision for the future.
Well, I want you to share your story because I think it's a fascinating story. You refuse to be canceled by the cancel culture. You've gone through the testing. You know where the choke points are, and you've built now a platform that people can participate in without fear of the plug being pulled.
Absolutely. You know, the Lord put it on my heart about 5 years ago to start this company. When I started it, everybody thought I was crazy, you know, sort of like Noah. I like to call it the digital Noah's Ark. They said, you're going to take on Facebook, you're going to take on Twitter, you're going to take on Google. From nothing, you're insane. And now today, after 5 years of diligent work, and like you said, going through the ring of fire, we've been banned from both app stores, we've been banned from hosting providers, from payment processors, from you name it, 25-plus service providers that you need to operate a website on the Internet. And we spent years building our own infrastructure. We have our own servers. We have our own web browser. We have our own payment processing solution. When I first started this, it was, you know, the goal was just to build an alternative social network. But really, what we've become is an alternative to Silicon Valley. And we had no choice but to build our own. And I believe that that is the future. We can't look back to this, the past of this failing system of big tech oligarchs in Silicon Valley. They're not going to change their ways. They're wicked. And they're going to continue to censor, and they're going to come after Christians, which is what I was most afraid of when I started the businesses. I wanted to be able to talk about the Lord. I wanted to share the gospel on the Internet. Now we're seeing, you know, 5 years later, things escalate to the point where they're calling the Bible hate speech, right? They're calling the words of Christ hateful and bigoted. So, you know, we're there, and things are escalating, and Gab is going to be, if the last place on the Internet where people can speak freely and share the gospel and share opinions and ideas. And it doesn't even have to be about Christianity, just in general. People are going to be able to speak freely on Gab.
Yeah, and that is true. I mean, I've been on there, and you know, it's growing rapidly. Millions coming there to Gab. And there are those that, they're just free speech advocates, don't share our faith and ideas, but I'm fine with that. I don't mind having a vigorous debate or conversation with people. That doesn't scare me. What scares me is what the left is doing and shutting down the debate. That's why I appreciate Gab. But there's more to Gab. We've Josh Hawley, I've known since he was Attorney General of Missouri, and one of the issues he had with big tech was how big tech, like Facebook, was exploiting its users and making money off of it. You have a different business model.
Exactly. We have a value for value business model. So instead of selling our users and their data and their information, basically big tech treats us like digital serfs on their plantation. We have a value for value model. So if you're getting value out of using our service, you can, purchase a hat, purchase a shirt, make a donation, or upgrade to something that we call Gab Pro.
Before we get into the how-tos, how people can sign up and be a part of this, I want to ask you this question. Has this social media battle that we see, this cancel culture and the effort to silence Christian voices on social media and in the media in general, in your view, is that just another manifestation of the spiritual war that we as Christians are engaged in?
Without a doubt, Tony. I mean, this is very obviously a spiritual war between good and evil, between light and darkness. It's a tale as old as time, but something that gives me hope as a Christian is that we serve the creator of the universe and that God always wins. And I believe right now in this moment in time, he's calling us to build. And, that's what we've been doing here at Gab for over 5 years. And I pray that other Christians are inspired by the work that we're doing and start to build themselves. Because if we're going to escape this cancel culture, I really feel like we need to build our own economy, build our own, banks, our own business infrastructure, our own internet. I mean, that's where things are going.
Andrew Torba, what I like about what you're doing and about your motivation here is I don't believe we should wave a white flag. I don't have a white flag. No. I don't think you're never going to find a white flag flying out in front of the Family Research Council. I believe we are to stand for truth. We're to proclaim truth. We're not to voluntarily silence ourselves. And if they try to silence, I'm going to speak even louder. And that's what I see Gab as. I see that's what you're doing. You've learned through the School of Hard Knocks. You didn't give up. You didn't surrender. You kept moving. And so now you have a platform that I would say, I don't think anything's 100%, but I mean, it certainly looks like it's 99% choke-proof, where the left cannot come and silence you and your folks on Gab. So where are we at now? About 50 million folks now using Gab?
We got about 30 million every month, Tony, and that's growing every single month. I mean, it's absolutely tremendous. We are getting more page views than some of the big mainstream media outlets, with the exception of maybe the New York Times and Fox News. We're bigger than all the rest of them. And that's why they've tried so hard to stop us, is because people are getting access to the free flow of information and to truth that they cannot find anywhere else. They can't find it on the internet. They can't find it in our culture. They can't find it on the, anywhere on the TV, very few spots on the radio, your show being one of them. But people are actively seeking the truth, and we're one of the only places that they can find it. So I don't think that growth is going to slow down anytime soon.
Okay, Andrew, let's talk about how people can become a part of the Gab community. How do they do it?
Sure. You just go to gab.com. Keep in mind, we've been banned from both app stores, and any apps that exist on Apple and Google's app stores are under Apple and Google's rules, and those rules do not include free speech. So in order to get on Gab, you just go to gab.com. In your web browser, on your phone, or on your desktop device, and you can sign up in a few seconds. All we require is a username and an email address and a password. We collect as little information as possible on our users because we're not only pro-free speech, but we're also very pro-privacy as well, because privacy is very important for being able to speak your mind freely.
And that goes back to that you don't exploit your users. They give, if they find value in this community, they can contribute to the community.
Exactly. We're doing things differently here. We're building a whole different business model, because the business model that Silicon Valley has is corrupt and is evil and is extorting people and treating them like digital serfs on the plantation. And then they turn around and silence people and tell them what they can and cannot talk about, what links they can share, what is real and what isn't according to their arbitrary standards. And we're not doing any of that. We're just letting people, speak freely and decide who they want to associate freely as well. With free speech comes, responsibility to also have free association. Just because everybody can speak their mind doesn't mean you have to associate with them. So you can unfollow people, you can block them, you can mute them. You don't have to see the stuff you don't like, and we leave that up to you. We're not going to play the arbiter of truth here.
But you do have boundaries. There are boundaries here in
Correct.
the Gab community. Explain what those are.
Absolutely. We're a community of law and order, so we do not allow threats of violence. We do not allow illegal activity. Unlike Twitter and some other platforms, we don't allow pornography at all. We have zero tolerance for it. And we want to protect people's safety and people's privacy. So we have common sense rules that are basically do not break the law. If it's allowed by the First Amendment, if you're allowed to have a political opinion that is protected by the First Amendment, it's allowed on our site. If it's against U.S. law or if it's illegal, then it's not allowed on our site. It's pretty straightforward, and most people tend to understand where that line in the sand is. And if they don't, then we escalate things to our moderation team and to law enforcement if necessary, because we want to keep the platform safe and free of illegal activity.
But Andrew Torba, that has been an allegation made against Gab. In fact, in some of the places that knocked you off, said that you allowed things on there when Twitter, as you pointed out, allows things that are more egregious than what happens in the Gab community.
Oh, absolutely. Obviously, when you're talking about tens of millions of people, Tony, there's going to be a few bad apples. And, in our early years, we were just a small startup. It's really a family-run business. So did we miss a few things? Absolutely. We're human beings, but we've gotten much better, and we've built out our systems to be much more robust. And we've educated our community to help us keep an eye out for illegal activity. I mean, Facebook Messenger is 85% of child exploitation cases annually, according to the FBI. So we're talking, 13 to 15 million cases of child exploitation that are going on Facebook, and nobody seems to care. Nobody seems to be talking about that. They're allowed to be on the app stores, versus Gab, which bans pornography completely, thus eliminating that problem. We're not allowed to be on app stores because we have a few bad apples that, say some mean things or offend some people.
Well, but I mean, you've had Twitter has been used in actual terrorist attacks.
Exactly.
Facebook was used.
Mass murders have been live streamed on Facebook.
Right. Yes. But they're still up there. I mean, you can't be accountable. I mean, you do your very best to police everyone that's in your community, but at the end of the day, you can't stop everybody. There's going to be, as you said,
there's tens of millions of posts.
Right.
Yeah. We do our best, and our community keeps a watchful eye. And we work with law enforcement when necessary to keep law and order within our community. But again, there's bound to be a few bad apples, and we act as swiftly as we can when we discover these things. And this stuff happens. This is the internet. Right. This is at scale with tens of millions of people. It's bound to happen. But we do our best to counter it.
It happens in the real world as well, not just the virtual world. It happens, on Free Speech Alley. But here's my view, and I don't know if you agree with me or not. But, Andrew, I think the left is simply using that as an excuse to silence conservative alternative speech, which they disagree with, because they cannot adequately defeat it in debate.
Exactly. Yeah, they have no other resort but censorship because they can't beat our ideas. And they can't, of course, beat the idea of the gospel, which is, objective truth. We live in a post-truth world. We live in this world of critical theory and Marxism where anything goes and it's just, nihilism left and right. So their reality is fundamentally different than ours. And because our ideas are better and our ideas offer people hope and truth and love, they have to counter that by silencing that.
Okay, Andrew Torba, let's talk about those good ideas. What's in store for Gab? Where do you want to take it?
Sure. So Gab, again, is much bigger than just a Twitter or Facebook alternative. We have our own web browser, our own free speech web browser, because I feel like that's the next step is they're going to start censoring web domains at the browser level. So we're prepared for that. We've already built our own web browser called Dissenter, Dissenter. We also have our own YouTube alternative called Gab TV. And one of the things that we're working on now is getting into the real world. So we're building a Gab smartphone and we're building a Gab TV device so that people can cut the cable and get access to Gab TV content right in their homes and get that wicked content and those wicked providers out of their families' homes. So we're working on really taking Gab from an idea in the digital world into the real world. That's kind of the vision going forward.
Andrew Torba, God bless you for staying in the fight and using your God-given skills to give people a place where they can not only have associations but continue to speak freely. Unfortunately, I wish it was such that we could speak to the whole world. But we've seen this bifurcation of communication and this isolation. I just want to encourage our people that are out there who believe the Bible and want to live according to it, but the only thing they hear is the nonsense from Fox, MSNBC, CNN, and the mainstream media that is counter to everything that is true.
Absolutely. And I just want to say, Tony, all the glory goes to God. I am just a vessel. I'm a servant of the Lord Jesus Christ. All the glory goes to him. I don't want anybody to remember my name. I want them to remember what Christ did for me, because he saved me. He saved Gab. The only reason Gab is online right now is because, God has blessed us and has humbled me and has helped our team to persevere through all the persecution that we faced over the past 5 years to continue going forward and to continue building.
Well, you are a picture of how I close my program every day from Ephesians chapter 6, where Paul says, when we've done everything we can do, when we've prayed, we've prepared, and we've taken our stand, we're to continue standing. And that's what I see in you, Andrew, and what I see in Gab. And again, before I let you go, people can go to gab.com. Now, this is a little different because there's not an app, but you can still do it on your smartphone, right? You can still access it on your smartphone and operate that way.
Exactly. If you have an iPhone, you can open it in Safari and click Add to Home Screen, and it'll add an app icon right onto your home screen. And you can do the same on Android if you open it in Google Chrome. So it's very easy to access on your mobile device. Don't let the Apple and Google App Store bans prevent you from speaking freely and from exiting the big tech panopticon of evil. We have to stop using these products and these services that are built by people that are anti-Christ fundamentally. So that's why we're building. We're building in the name of God, and we're building to glorify him and to empower everybody around the world to speak freely.
Now, I said that was the last question, but I want to ask another question. Because a lot of people are asking me, just as I had these pastors yesterday morning in a meeting I did in East Texas, news sources. You have news sources there on Gab that can be in their feed so they can find out and know what's going on from trusted sources.
Right. Yes, we have a number of publications across Gab that have official accounts that are posting articles as they update them. I know you guys are posting there as well, any of your updates and your news. And those are all verified, so people know that those are the official sources. We do have our own news section as well, which is actually powered by the community. So as people are sharing links and talking about links, they start to trend. So it's an actual trending algorithm versus a trending algorithm that is, puppeteered by progressives in San Francisco at Facebook or at Google. So, our people really power the whole system, and our code is actually open source. So any engineer can take a look and say, this is how Gab's feed works, or this is how this works. So we're very transparent comparatively to some of the big tech guys as well in that regard.
Boy, how novel is that in this world where you're actually very transparent, letting people know what you are doing. I wish we could say the same for the left.
Never. They would never be able to hide all the wicked things they're doing behind the scenes, even though now they're doing it, kind of in front of our faces here.
Well, Andrew Torba, again, I want to thank you for joining us today on Washington Watch. I want to thank you for your vision, and we're certainly going to be encouraging our folks to join us over on Gab as a free speech platform where we can have conversations out of fear with no fear of being silenced. So, Andrew, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Tony. God bless.